Welcome to episode 2, season 2 of Enabling Remote Work with Microsoft Teams. I'm your host, Stephen Rose. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about back to school and user adoption in Teams now that schools have picked back up both in person, hybrid, and remote from K through college. It's really important to kind of talk about how to ensure that you've locked down and secured your environment and also created ways for teachers and the various students to be able to report back on how it's working for them and perhaps what changes need to be made. We have some wonderful folks from our Microsoft engineering team and a phenomenal student from University of Maryland College Park, Sarah Patrick, who works with a non-for-profit organization called Tech Girls. So we'll be chatting with her. We have an unboxing today. As always, if you have any questions during the broadcast or if you're watching this on recording, reach out to me at Stephen L. Rose on Twitter. That's with a PH. And we'll, of course, post all the links right after the show in case you want to go check out one of those links. My first guest is Jethro Seghers. He is a senior customer PM on the Microsoft engineering team for Teams, and he works with our customers that are K-12 through higher education. Thanks, Jethro, for joining us. How are you today?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Jethro Seghers. Like you mentioned, I'm part of the Teams engineering team, but I'm 100% focused on education, both from a K-12 and higher education perspective. Education has always been a part of my engagement. I was an IT director at the University of Belgium, and when I joined Microsoft, I knew that I wanted to do something with education and also something with Teams. So the fact that I can do that, I'm really living the dream. And right now, I'm helping our strategic customers understanding the value of Teams and how they can bring Teams in the classroom, but also our IT admins on how to make sure that the environment is as safe as possible for students.
Awesome. And speaking of living the dream, today I get to do a show with Karuana. We have done a few events together in the past, but never done a webcast together. So I'm so excited to have her. And this is her first of several appearances this season on our show. So Karuana, how are you today?
I am great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited too. It's amazing how many people I hear talk about living the dream at Microsoft. So I am definitely one of those people. I'm also in Teams engineering. I run our customer advocacy group. And you and I have done lots of fun stuff in the community and for the Champions program. And I also manage adoption.microsoft.com. And I'm just happy to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, you also have your cool webcast, Coffee in the Cloud, AKMS/Coffee in the Cloud, which I encourage you to check out because she does a great job as well. And you are also a frequent speaker on empowering female leadership in technology and the future collaboration, which I love. And you're going to love our segment today. So thanks so much for joining me.
Anytime.
All right, Jethro, let's take something right out of the headlines. Seattle Public Schools are using Teams because they said, hey, we have up to 49 people can now be seen on screen at once, and we're translating into 3 times the number of languages than Zoom. We have closed captioning available, which is phenomenal for any students with special needs or ESL. We have features for Seeing American Sign Language translators, and we're about to release breakout rooms in the next few weeks. So lots of great stuff that we've announced in the past few weeks. But one of the things that a lot of folks don't know about is Microsoft's School Data Sync tool. It's used to bring existing student records automatically to add students to the Teams classroom. So can you talk a little bit about that tool and other key things that administrators should be aware of when setting up Teams for the school year or when locking down and providing a safe environment for students to work in this semester?
Yeah, absolutely. So School Data Sync, in my opinion, is one of the essential platforms that our IT pros need to look at when they start building out the school year, right? It really helps creating the classrooms based on your student information system. So the way that we're looking at it is when you have a student information system, you already know which classes you have, which students are going to be participating in these classes, which teachers, and so that's already the source of truth for us to make sure that every teacher has a classroom environment, has the right students, but also, like you mentioned, has the right control. Because at that point, there's a number of security measures that we've implemented specifically for classes. For example, being completely FERPA compliant is super important for us, right? So using SDS that is essential to really making sure that you have that security in place. Additionally, what we also always tell our definitely our IT pros and our administrators specifically that support whether it's higher education or even K-12 is really to understand the different settings and the different safety measures. Like for example, we've implemented that you can set by default that a teacher is the only presenter in a meeting slash classroom. And that's important because a presenter has a number of privileges that you don't necessarily want a student to have. Additionally, we also implemented new lobby options that our teachers really, really like. So it is important to really go through the process and set up your tenant as safe as possible.
Sure.
And to make it easier on them, in our documentation on docs.microsoft.com, we have a whole guide step by step on what are the things that you need to implement. And SDS is definitely a part that they need to look at as well.
And I know that school data sync tool also sets up things like the OneNote class notebook, the Office 365 groups for emails. And if you're using Intune for education, it'll set up the policies both for the school issued and for the personal devices. Now, you talk a little bit about security, and you gave a great quote the other day. You talked about learn without risk. And that really goes into setting up leased permissions. What does that mean in EDU, and how should an administrator look at leased permissions? And then we're getting some questions in that I want to ask after we kind of hit on that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's super important that when we look at our tenants is that we make sure that whatever situation you're in, you always have the right permissions. And we like to start with blocking as much as possible and then opening up for the people who need it. Let me give you one example. Take, for example, instant messaging. There's still a lot of schools out there who are like, we're not fully comfortable allowing a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, maybe a 10-year-old to have instant messaging with their friends. They're okay with a teacher setup, but not necessarily with their friends. So at that point, what we suggest that IT admins do is change the global permissions. The global permission is the permission that is assigned when you create a new user. So when a new student comes in, you know for a fact that the right permissions are going to be set. When you bring in a new teacher, you need to change the configuration for that teacher, but you know that your students are always going to be in a safe environment.
Right. One of the questions we got was, how do I access the sign language feature for MS Teams? And if you don't know that, I can find it out and we can send it off. Do you know how to access that?
So pretty much what we do is we bring in an interpreter, real life interpreter specifically into the meeting itself. So an ASL interpreter can then share their video feed, and even when a screen is presented, they will still see the video feeds available. What we're also seeing, and that's not necessarily for sign language, is that live captions helps a lot of students who indeed need to see certain words being written on the screen. Not just for sign language, but also take, for example, students where English is their second language. They prefer sometimes to read it than just to hear it.
Got it. Did you know that SDS does not see values that are case sensitive? Our unique records were no longer unique and we had many data collisions. Is that something you can speak to?
Absolutely. And so setting up SDS is something that requires sometimes a little bit of a hand-holding, I call it. And that's why we have a dedicated SDS team. So within Microsoft, we have a full team that delivers help or provides help with the deployment, but also with the support after it's been set up. So reach out to us, go to sds.microsoft.com. You will see a form there. And at that point, we can actually bring in the right engineers, bring in the right people that can help you with these specific steps. So don't feel that you have to do this completely by yourself. We have the people for it. Use our services so that you can avoid these type of errors.
And where do people go to find out about those services?
So specifically around SDS, everything starts at sds.microsoft.com. And that's a full portal where you can create a support ticket. It also where you can ask for specific services that we deliver. But also if you just want information, that's the best URL to start from.
And then Teams University is another thing that that we've talked about. Can you talk a little bit about Teams University?
Yeah, absolutely. So Teams University is a same thing as with SDS, but really what we're trying to do there is provide a lot of resources. For example, for educators who wants to start using Teams in their classroom, how does that look like? Especially now with COVID and a lot of schools going in completely remote learning sessions. That's really something that we have completely covered on that website. And additionally, my team and my peers, we do a lot of webinars where we talk about specific scenarios like how do you switch from full physical in classroom learning
Right.
to online remote learning. It's a little bit of a change. It's
Yeah.
something you need to have your mindset for it. And so we do webinars around that as well.
And let me ask you that. I know that you need to use global policies to close off features and then enable them for staff groups,
Mhm.
which will make it easier to manage a small group of users rather than that rapidly changing set of students who are going from in classroom to remote. What are some of the, let's say, 2 or 3 kind of key global policies that people should keep an eye out for when moving from hybrid to in-person or in-person to hybrid?
Yeah, I think one of the most important ones that we're seeing definitely organizations struggle with a little bit is that they don't set what the default presenters are in a Teams meeting. So, like I said in the beginning, you can actually identify a meeting policy where you say that only the teacher is the presenter. That way, the teacher is completely comfortable. There's no students who have presenter rights, and that is essential. The second thing is also understanding what you want to do with anonymous users. So we allow anonymous users. And for some organizations, that's something that is essential. For other organizations, it might be potentially something that you want to turn off if you don't really need it. We've heard a lot about Zoom bombing and all that scenario.
Right.
And that's really where anonymous is sometimes a risk. So understanding what anonymous users do, how you can control that is essential for your security as well. And the third thing I would say is instant messaging and chat as a whole is, do you want to turn it off? Do you want to turn it on? But what is very important is that you can be selective who you turn it on or turn it off for. Let me give you one example. We feel that especially in high school, which is in preparation of going to college or going to the university, having the ability to do an instant messaging chat and knowing how to do that properly
Right.
without cyberbullying is an acquired skill set. So if you're just going to turn it off for high school as well, they might not learn that skill set. So we always say, lock it down, for example, all the way to high school, and then start working with the students so that they understand why it is essential as a part of their skill set in preparation to go to college or the university.
Absolutely. Cyber etiquette is key. Caruana, I'm going to throw it over to you now. You said it's a good idea to set up a specialized channel for feedback from teachers so you can see what staff wants from the service. And you are very much about communication from the people using Teams to the folks who are managing it. So talk a little bit about that and some of the great tools and things that you've done on your adoption site to help folks get to this point to really support their end users properly.
Well, it's no doubt that we've been in this stressful time for many people. And as I was listening to Jethro talk about the services we have, I hope people understand that many of the services that we provide, and certainly in the adoption and community space, these are free of charge. There is no reason to be going through this journey by yourself. And part of our goal is to make sure that people are connected to the answers and tools and other humans who are going through this process. And I'm really passionate about supporting teachers. Obviously, we want to have collaboration without risk and learning without risk, as Jethro mentioned. But it's also really important to make sure that teachers are having a learning journey as well. In many places, they may be acting as kind of half of the IT pro in the organization. And so they're having to do things that they've never had to do before. So the Teams University is a wonderful place to start. And we also have AK.MS Teams Live Training. And right there on that page towards the bottom, there are training courses that are specifically for education. And they're free, they're online, you can consume them when you want. And on the university page also, we've got links to our communities. And the whole purpose of a community really is to meet other people like yourself. They're usually community managed by other subject matter experts. And I love the scenario guidance that's also there so that you can see how to use the technology in situations that matter to you, right? It doesn't really matter how Microsoft wants the product to be used. It matters how you need to use it in your own environment. And we're actually
Right.
learning from you and all the learning that has communication that's come from those folks in those communities. So it's really a great way to stay connected and realize too that you too, as an educator in this space, may be dealing with some virtual event burnout. So make sure that you take advantage of these things on a time where you can give it just a little bit of time, and then walk away and let it kind of marinate in your mind and then come back to it. It's very important to, kind of put some guardrails around your own learning as you're going through and managing this transition on behalf of other people.
Yeah.
That comes from my years as a champion in the field. People think that, and I know educators probably know this, others listening don't, that, your brain can only take in so much information at a time. And it's definitely true when it comes to technology. Many of us have been pushed through this transition that in ways that we would not have really opted in for. So, be kind and gentle to yourself as much as possible as you are leading others along the way to digital learning.
Yeah. And I want to show a great video of somebody enabling that here in a few moments. But first, I want to have you talk about your adoption.microsoft.com site, because it is tremendous. It's something I did a look last year to kind of see where all of our adoption stuff was to try to make it easy. And I realized it was across 22 different Microsoft sites. And you saw the same thing, and we've talked and shared information, and you built this phenomenal resource. So I definitely want to have you talk about it. Then I want to bring on Sarah, and then I want to dig in really deep to answer some more of these questions. So talk about adoption.microsoft.com.
Well, I am happy to talk about that. That is my favorite project that I'm running right now. And it really is about realizing, for me, a lifelong dream of solving this issue of the scattered content that's all over the Microsoft ecosystem. I remember being a customer of Microsoft and the folder of links I had to have to do my first SharePoint implementation. And so I've always been really focused on consolidating these things when I could. And adoption is my thing. We've just launched adoption.microsoft.com. And there you'll find all of our premier adoption guidance, not just for Microsoft Teams, but the whole teamwork space. We have a backlog of new content that's coming on board for Sway and Power BI and Power Apps. We're going to continue to expand that. And I'm really excited about launching the virtual event playbook there before the end of this month, which means this week. That content will be available to folks who are really trying to figure out what are the best practices in making the transition to virtual events. But that guidance that we're launching, and all of the guidance, it's really broken down by role. So there's information for IT professionals, there's information for pure organizational change folks, and links to our worldwide programs like the Worldwide Champions program and our Service Adoption Specialist certification course that you can take. So, I'm really happy to have this place that we can continue to invest in as the home for adoption research and guidance and all the scenario and industry work that we're doing. So thank you for mentioning it. I hope everybody goes and visits and, keep giving us feedback about what you need. That is the purpose, of course, of the community that supports that. The Driving Adoption Forum on the tech community is where I host my monthly calls, and we have ongoing conversations. So, the tech community is a fantastic way of getting connected, and the site is a way to find all the resources you need. So
that's awesome. I have a question for you that came in. Is it possible to use Teams education in enterprise? Much useful for training as for progress tracking. Please advise.
We've had that question multiple times. It is not at this time. The specialized features that exist are actually provisioned at a tenant level. So you get an education tenant or a commercial tenant, and that dictates the behavior of teams. But we've had a lot of conversation internally about bringing some of those capabilities over assignments, and simply the way of the structure has been handled. Right now, we have Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, which brings in the idea of playlists and content where you can create a curriculum, and then that exists inside of Teams as well. It's configurable. You can find out about that on the adoption website, but we're not bringing those features over quite yet.
Yeah. No, I love the stuff you've done on adoption.com. We should look to do something like that for Ignite. Maybe put all that Ignite content into one place. That might be kind of a
That's
cool
a great
idea.
idea. I bet you people would really like to find everything in one place.
They would
Plus all
love
the
that.
engineering goodness that we have to offer.
We have so much. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go to my interview with Sarah Patrick from Tech Girls, and then we'll come back with more questions with Karuana and Jethro. All right, for our guest segment today, I'm very excited since we're talking about education, we're talking about, teaching people skills and leveraging teams and all that. I have Sarah Patrick, who is a presenter at Tech Girls, which is a workshop for the Boys and Girls Club of Hartford County. She's an advocate for women in tech. She goes to University of Maryland in College Park, and she's a iSchool, which sounds very Apple-like, student ambassador. So you'll have to tell me more. Plus, you've done some really cool internships, but you're a big tech fan and you're out teaching teams and other software and coding to young girls. So I wanted to chat with you and learn a little bit more about what you're doing. And of course, to promote this great program, Tech Girls. So tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about the Tech Girls program.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, I'll be a junior this fall at the University of Maryland, where I'm studying information science. That's where iSchool comes from, like information science.
Got it.
And then operations management, business analytics as well. So with Tech Girls, I started volunteering for them back in 2016. So it's been 4 years now, which is crazy. I was just a sophomore in high school, and my dad's company wanted to start a group to go around to the Boys and Girls Club in my county and run these workshops that Tech Girls provide. So their big mission is to spark that interest in young girls to pursue tech. And there's actually a bunch of studies done that middle school age for girls, it's what's most crucial to get that spark going, because once they outgrow that age, they'll lose interest, and that's due to lack of mentors, lack of role models, lack of real life examples in their school curriculum. So Tech Girls provides these realistic hands-on tech workshops that anyone can really run. We have the slide decks, the whole plan layout, everything you need to learn what you need to know to teach these girls. So I was the first presenter way back in the day in 2016. That was one of my biggest, my first big speaking gigs at 16. I was like, I don't know, public speaking sounds scary. Why would I want to do that?
Right.
But it was really liberating for me. It was a breakthrough, just because I was so nervous of how it was going to go and if I would do okay. And these girls were so inspired, so excited, and they really impressed me as well. I taught them how to make a website with WordPress, and I made my example one about cats, because I was like, oh, they're middle school girls. Like, that seems cute, right?
Right.
I'll do my example one about cats. And they ended up doing theirs about social injustice and their passions for music and cooking and all these much deeper subjects than I realized for these middle school girls. So I've been doing it ever since, and now we've been doing it virtually through Teams, and I'm really glad that I still get to do it and reach out to these girls.
Awesome. And that's what I was going to ask you is, how are you doing this now with COVID? Are you using Teams, and what features have really helped you to better connect and communicate with these girls? Because I know, as you know, those critical years for STEM is that 12 to 15. That's when a lot of young girls drop out of STEM. And it's so important to, kind of show them all the cool things that you can do, and let them realize all the different ways that they can express themselves and can leverage this technology to really help themselves and help the world around them. So how are you doing this now?
Yeah, so when pandemic hit, I was obviously very confused on how things were still going to happen. And coincidentally, before the pandemic hit, we made our own workshop about how to use Microsoft Teams, about collaborating through that interface. So I was like, wow, at least we taught some girls how to use Teams before it hit. So with the workshops we've done actually with Teams, it's been really easy to send out the link to them. They log on, they're able to chat, and we even made other links to go to if they needed more one-on-one help. We liked using the raise hand function for them to let us know when they were done. And the girls, they picked it up really quickly. Like, I gave them a very short tutorial on one of the first workshops. I was like, here's how you use the chat, here's how you raise your hand, this is what you need to do. And they picked it up super great. They were able to ask their questions very clearly in the chat if they needed to. They knew how to unmute themselves and mute themselves again. That was really important because we didn't want them talking over each other.
Yes.
And raising their hand helped too for me to figure out if our pacing was good time-wise of moving on to the next exercise or if they needed a little bit more time to work on it.
And I know you guys have been doing sort of secondary sessions, aka sort of mini breakouts, but the breakout room session sounds like one of the breakout room feature sounds like one of those features that's really going to be helping your sessions when you can put people into individual rooms, let them work together, and then when they're done, kind of bring them back into the larger room. So that sounds like a good feature that's coming out soon that's going to help to make things a little bit easier. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. So like I was saying, we made like it was kind of like a separate meeting, I guess, that worked as our breakout room.
Right.
And we felt this was important because one of our workshops is with WordPress, and sometimes girls will say, hey, I'm getting this error, but maybe they're not sure how to explain it, which is totally okay. It's new for them and we want them to learn. But since it's virtual, it's not like we can come to their computer and see their screen, and we don't want them to share their screen with everyone because everyone still wants to keep working. So using that separate breakout room was really great for one of the volunteers and them to get in that separate space and work one-on-one and figure out their problem.
All right. So is now that you're virtual, is this helping you to expand your program and to reach people outside of just your local area where it was being offered before? You seeing it starting to grow a little bit now because of this?
Yes, absolutely. So this was something that I didn't think about when we did our first virtual event. When I logged on, I was like, oh, I guess people don't have to be where I'm from. And I'm from Maryland. So I asked in the chat, I was like, hey, let me know where you're from. And we had girls from California, which that is literally across the country for me. Illinois, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. And there's definitely more I'm missing. I was just shocked by how many more girls we were reaching out to. So yes, being virtual has definitely reached out to more girls, which is really awesome.
Yeah, it's going to change the way that you do that program forever. So somebody wants to learn more about your program. Where do they go to go learn more and to, point all of these great young people that are looking to do more in STEM and learn more about technology? Where do they go to learn more?
Hi, so their website is techgirls with a Z, techgirls.org. And then you'll find some tabs there about the events, summer camps they're holding, which is like a week-long, a multiple-day event. Or if you want to volunteer, there's also a tab to check out how you can help out as well.
Cool. And if people want to reach out to you directly on Twitter, they can reach you at Sarah E. Patrick. That's with a SARAH. And you are happy to point them towards it and all that other good stuff. So we're expecting great things from you because you've already hit so much so young. We're expecting so much more from you as you continue on. By 30, we figure we'll all be working for you. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on the show. This is great. And everybody, go check out techgirls.org to go learn more and how you can get involved and can help the program and help Sarah with the great stuff that she's doing. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Big thanks again to Sarah Patrick for joining us. She was an amazing guest, and I'm excited. If that's the future youth of tomorrow and who's going to be taking over for us someday, I feel pretty good about things. So Karuana, Jethro, kind of want to wrap up on a few things. And Karuana, I'll start with you. What are the 2 or 3 things that IT pros should be thinking about now that school has started back up and things are going on and students are now using the platform and some teachers may be using it for the first time? What are a few things that they should be paying attention to right now?
Well, the first thing to understand is that we have so many resources available to help IT pros, between our core product documentation at successwithteams.com to the information on Teams University, which we talked about. There's lots of opportunities for learning on their part. But also to remember that Teams isn't just about meetings or OneNote. There's a lot of other capabilities that you can bring in to support teachers, faculty, and other activities that are happening in the environment. And so I encourage people to take a phased approach. And if we can bring back some of the project phasing, that will help our teachers really learn differently so that they feel more capable of bringing this technology in to make a more robust digital learning experience. It's all about engagement.
Absolutely.
It's all about engagement at this point.
And I do want to remind folks that although our physical stores are closed, our stores are still offering instructor-led and free training for schools and for companies that are looking for that. And you can get that as well. I got a great question, which I'm going to ask to you. Is speech to text available for completing assignments remotely? And I know that we have speech to text both in Teams, we have it in Word, OneNote. So do you want to take a moment and talk to that before I go to Jethro?
Absolutely. Yes. As a matter of fact, it is. So, speech to text is a great tool to use as you're thinking through an assignment. Get that information into whatever app you happen to be using. Maybe you're talking with other, your teacher, other faculty in the course of completing your assignment, but you could also just be getting your thoughts down in OneNote
Yeah.
or answering questions in Word and creating a paper. So, absolutely use text to speech. You can always clean it up and make some adjustments by hand later if that's what you want to do. But I love that. I wish it had been available when I was in school.
I agree.
That would help me
I
a
use
lot.
it in Outlook mobile because sometimes typing on the smaller keyboard is difficult, and if it's a longer email or I'm getting my thoughts out, I'll just do that. Then you're right. I'll save it as a draft, go back, quickly edit it up. But if I'm in the car or something like that, it's absolutely tremendous. Jethro, over to you. Key things that folks want to be thinking about now that they're back into the school year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to split it up in the different audiences, right? So specifically for IT Pro, make sure that you go through the settings of your tenant. Make sure that student safety is 100% your core focus. And if you're missing out on some of the resources, I know that we're sharing some of the resources immediately after this, but if you wouldn't be able to find them, ping me on Twitter. Happy to help you, making sure that you have the right ones. Specifically for educators and also parents, right? An organization really has to also make sure there's professional development for them. We can't just expect teachers to be dropped into teams and know how everything works,
Right.
especially with all the features that we have, like assignments, class notebook. A lot of teachers are already using some of the components, but bringing it all together and completely remotely is definitely an additional hurdle that they need to take. Also include parents, because parents will be our support service with our students. They're the ones that are going to check, why can't you join this meeting? Why can't you do this? So making sure that you involve the community, involve the parents is absolutely a great idea.
Yeah. And I'll offer this. If there is a school that can get a good amount of their teachers together, I am happy to do a free class for you and for your teachers. First come, first serve, but I'm happy to jump on and do a 45-minute Q&A, answer questions. And I know most of us, Karuana as well, many of us would be willing to do that or can connect you with people who can. So if you're like, we just want somebody to come in and answer some questions for our teachers, reach out to us. We will connect you with the right resources. And if we can't, we'll do it ourselves. We have our Give Month coming up, and that's my commitment, is to do more of these things. So would love to help there. We're going to take another break. We're going to go to our unboxing, and then we're going to come back with our resources and talk about next week's show. So sit tight. We'll be right back. Welcome to our next unboxing. This week, we're taking a look at the Dell XPS 17. So this is a beautiful laptop starting at $13.99. Really nice high-end metal finish. One of the things I really like about it is 2 USB-C power ports on the right-hand side, plus a full-size SD card slot and a audio jack. And on the other side, we have a lock and 2 more fully powered USB-C 3 Thunderbolt ports. So let's take a look. Really, really amazing screen. I'm going to go ahead and launch a video so you can get a good idea on what this looks like. And as you can see, a really key part of this is the screen. The resolution on this is 3840 by 2400. So that certainly tells you a lot about the type of display and the quality of this. This is a true 4K display, which is absolutely great. I'm going to go ahead and choose repeat for a moment so you can take a look at that. This comes with either a 10th generation i7 or i9 core. That's a 6 or 8 core. And graphics card, this one has the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060 with 6 gigabytes of RAM. You can also get the lower end versions with the 1650 Ti, that's a 4 gigabyte card, or the UHD graphics. Let's take a look at the specs on this. So if I go in click, go down to properties. We can see this is a 64 gig of RAM. This is the i7 core on this. Drive space comes with anywhere from 256 all the way up to a full terabyte. Camera, one of the things I really like is they've moved the camera back up here to the top rather than down at the bottom, so it's not looking up your nose anymore. The camera is a 720p 30 frames per second RGB IR camera with dual mics. What's nice is you can either log in via Windows Hello via the camera or via the fingerprint reader built into the keyboard. Bottom, we can see we have a really nice large trackpad, which is great. I really love the size of this. It takes up a good amount of room, but it really allows you to very simply and very easily switch between the different things that you need to switch between on this device. So backlit keyboard, of course. We have the Killer Control Center, which allows you to switch between a multimedia gaming computer, how to optimize, or if you want to go into a creator mode, if you're doing things like video, Photoshop, etc., sets you up. And the Max Pro is built in with full 3D audio. So this is great. It really allows, if you're listening to movies or doing things like that, for it to move from speaker to speaker to side. It is a little heavy at 4.5 to 5.5 pounds, so it does weigh a little bit. But if you're looking for a super powerful laptop, something that is going to match a MacBook Pro, but at less of a price, this is a great laptop for you. This was Laptop Magazine's Editor's Choice, Tom's Guide Editor's Choice, and PC Magazine's Editor's Choice. So great device. Check it out at Dell.com, the Dell XPS 17. I want to thank our guests this week and make sure that you check out all these links, the school data sync link, our Teams for Education, Adoption, Teams University, and of course, techgirls.org. Just some great work that all these folks are doing to really help you. Somebody asked the question, how are you guys getting districts educated? Many are chasing Zoom and other tools because they don't know that they have Microsoft Teams. We are shouting from the rooftops. We are putting out blogs. We are on social. We are everywhere. So whatever you can do to help us to make people aware, that's great. And we will take that back to our teams and let them know. Next week's show, we're going to show off some cool new Teams headsets from Bose and from Jabra. And we are focused on Microsoft Teams security. So make sure to check out the website for upcoming show dates. Also, send me a photo or video of your setup on Twitter, and you can get maybe one of these cool Teams t-shirts. I will be picking a winner every week. Follow me on Stephen L. Rose. And we have a new feature in our extras area. I'm going to be adding a weekly tip or trick. So make sure that you check that out. So on behalf of myself and Jethro and Karuana, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll see you on our next episode of Enabling Remote Work with Teams.